Hi everyone, and welcome to this take on Black Spring. We're here with Autumn. I just wanted to talk to you a little bit today about a few things, a couple of things that we are seeing and things that we've seen that we may not have quite, depending on your generation. For one, the things that I will talk about in this video very briefly, well, I'll probably encompass a few generations which precede mine, no less parallel to some of the social ecosystems that we're witnessing today. For one, the element of fear is a common element that I've discovered in this topic. And the cornerstone of this topic will end up being something called cultural Marxism. Now, as I said previously, in the 1960s, of course, which precedes me, there were quite a few philosophers that were ex-members of, Nazi Germany. Just to name a couple, Marcuse, Adorno, Horkheimer. They were philosophers who were basically somewhat, banished and not tolerated by Hitler and his regime. And what we're seeing today, whether it be on the college campuses or whether it's, just in our social constructs, we're seeing all these examples of specifically the groupthink, and much of that originated from the college campuses. Marcuse, Horkheimer, as well as Adorno, they were philosophers who represented the ideas of Marxism, and they were pretty nihilistic in their views. And they also believed in developing, arguing for what they called a critical theory. Critical theory basically kind of deconstructs and basically wants to do away with traditional values, traditional social constructs, whether it be marriage, education, beliefs of the sexual suppression, leads to the unhappiness of people, and people need to be, they could be sexually liberated from the social constructs. Also onto the college campuses, they couldn't quite find a way to create like maybe a working class, kind of a warfare or protest. So they went another route with the group thinking, hence the development of multicultural things on the college scene, as well as the Chicano studies, gender studies, African American studies, LGBT studies. All of these studies came about during this time, and it was also during a time of also something called a student movement. These were movements, post-World War movements in which, students were maybe protesting Vietnam. There was a sharing of spaces, a sharing of fear, and we see that again today. I do feel like the Democrat Party is using the fear tactics that were somewhat parallel to the time. Like there was the Cuban Missile Crisis, and the Save the Planet, or Don't Litter, all these campaigns that have sprung out of fear. And to me, these are parallels to the cultural Marxism from the 1960s, as well as, the mobilization, the call for mobilization for climate change, and all of these things which are highly in step with UN Agenda 21. So just generally, these are things that I have taken a special, paid a little bit more attention to see, where have we seen this before? These are not new movements or new protests. It's not a new volume of protest or, it's basically, the millennials are the target, the agents of change that the UN has even suggested, even through the children. I've mentioned in previous videos about things like UNESCO, all these things that are in step with the UN Agenda 21 and all these things that the Democrats are trying to push in this new Green Deal, saving the planet, all of these, mobilization ideas or calls for, to be in step with the UN agenda. In fact, many people already say, well, the New World Order is already here based on the things that we've seen. And if you have children, you might want to pay more attention to what's going on in the education systems, what's being taught. Just there's many examples everywhere. You don't really have to look far. It's a motion to anti-establishment motion that was perpetuated from the Frankfurt School and by Marxism, developing those ideas of those philosophers. So here again, if you like what you hear, like what you've heard, always come back and give it another try. So you can subscribe, like, or even share. Thanks for tuning in.